morning, it's Øyvind Martinsen here. It's early morning in the interior of the Cocle province here in Panama, and I'm ready for a macro session. Early in the morning it's normally less wind and our subject keep more still when it's not so windy. In this video I'm gonna show you how to shoot macro images with a 180mm macro lens. Here's the neighbor's dog. And with flash, where I provide the main light source with the flash. I'm also gonna shoot with the fill flash, where the light from the flash is only filling in. I'm going to shoot in natural light. I'm also going to use a reflector, a small one. This is easy to use and easy to bring because it's very small and it's foldable. You can have it in your photo bag. I will also try some shots with this LED light that can fill in on the subject. So I'm using my tripod here. I have my cable release, I have my Canon camera and my macro lens, and I'm ready to go. One of the good things with this macro flash is a Canon Twin Light MT24EX, and I can change the position of the flashlights. It's two of them. One over, one under. I can change it. So I have actually a mini studio here in the forest. So you can also take one off if I like and put one over, one under, or I can hold both of them in different positions. You can also hold one behind the subject. It's cool, and you can also change the angle here. It's very useful. There we go. So you can shoot. Here is the main subject today, Heliconia flower. We planted this here a long time ago, and now we have many of them, and I have selected just one, and this will be the target for this lecture. So let's go ahead. We're gonna try without flash, with fill flash, with the flash as the main light source. We're gonna also shoot with reflector and with LED light, and also we're gonna do some creative stuff with the flash on the rear curtain sync and some movements to create some arty photos. So let's go. First we're gonna shoot with natural light. So I turn off the flash. I set my camera to ISO 200 and I'm going to use F16 to get a little bit depth of field. And a little bit depth of field in macro photo is only a few millimeters. So set it there. Perfect. I take one. I use my cable release. Yes. Perfect. Now I'm going to use the flash as a fill flash. Switch on the flash. I set my camera settings to my flash settings to -2 because I don't want the flash to fill in too much, and I want to angle the flashes, leap it out and up so the flower only receive a little bit soft flashlight on the side of the light beam. There we go. Fill flash. Yes, very good. Perfect. Need only one. Now I'm going to take another approach. I'm going to direct the flash directly to the flower. I'm going to use the flash as the main light source. Then I switch from aperture priority to manual priority, and I set my settings to ISO 200 f16 and 250th of a second. If I took this picture now without the flash, then it would go completely dark, and the light is filling in the filling in the light we need to get the flower lit up. So let's see here what we can do. I'm gonna adjust the flash a little bit up, so a little bit stronger flash from -2 up to 0. Let's see what happens. Perfect. That was it. I'm going to go back to aperture priority, and we are turning off the flash. And I'm going to try one picture with a LED lamp. Let's see what happens. I'm at the same settings, the same composition. I'm a cable release, and I'm going to put some light on the flower. Perfect. Let's see. Yes, it fills in. It fills in into the shadows. Now let's try one with the reflector. So we are working the shadows here. The sun is here behind the forest, and behind me the sun is coming on the landscape here, but I'm working in the shadows, so I don't have a sunbeam to pick up. That can be a good option if you're working in the shadows. You pick up the sunbeam outside and send the light beam into the flower or your subject if it's something else. So, but I can fill in some light here in the shadow area. You see there I have some. Yes. Yes. I like this because it has a mix of gold and silver, and that gives me a mix of cold and warm tones. If I used only a silver reflector, it will be too hard. If I used the golden reflector, it will be too warm. But the mix of these two, cold and warm tones, is perfect. The white ones normally doesn't reflect enough, but my favorite is the gold and silver. And these are foldable, easy to use, easy to carry. Now we're gonna do some creative work. We're gonna take off and move the tripod away. Put it here. First I'm going to do some creative creative shots. I'm going to use a long exposure at 0.4 seconds. And I'm going to move the camera in short movements up and down during the exposure, and we get some very interesting arty photos. Let's see what happens. Cool. Move a little bit. Yes, and vertical. Yes, and vertical. Don't forget to shoot vertical. Can be interesting too. Move. It's almost like the flower is on fire. Yes, interesting. And now I'm going to take a picture with the flash on, and I'm going to move the camera, but I have set the flash on rear curtain sync. That means it goes off at the end of the exposure and not in the beginning, and that gives me a combination of the motion blur when I move the camera, and the flash will create a sharpness at the end of the exposure, so I get the combination of motion blur and sharpness in the frame. Let's see. I'm moving. Oh, very beautiful. Awesome. Awesome. Take a few more. So very nice. Awesome. So beautiful. A little bit back. Move. It's almost like the flower is on fire. I'm going to shoot some verticals. Don't forget to shoot verticals. It's another option. And I'm moving. Nice. Moving. Now I'm working almost like a painter, so my hand movements is the thing that creates my image, and the flash also helps me with the details at the end of the exposure. Move a little bit faster. Yes, awesome. Another faster. Beautiful. Look at this. This was a very nice morning here in the interior of the Cocktail province in Parma. We planted these heliconias some years ago, and they are growing and spreading. That's very nice. So it's time to go in and upload the pictures on the computer and develop them in Adobe Lightroom. So I see you there. Thank you for watching. Hi again. Now I have uploaded my images on the computer and into Adobe Lightroom, and here is the selection from this morning shoot, and I'm gonna start to develop the images. Here we have the different shots, and I'm gonna start with this one. So I am now in the library module, and I want to go to the develop module, and to do that I can either press the D button on the keyboard or go to develop here. Click here. This is the first image in natural light. Nothing is added here, it's only pure natural light. What I see here, I want to warm up the tones here, so I need to drag the color temperature to the right. You see, let me get more orange. See, in the beginning here it was more bluish. This was original because I worked in the shadows, so I just drag to the right and get warmer tones, and more orange is coming out. And I have some blue in the background, but that will be good, a good contrast to the orange here. Cold and warm tones. I want to increase the contrast here. Also a little bit on the black. Drag it a little bit to the minus. I want to increase the clarity. Drag that up to around 25. And the clarity sharpens the medium tones. And I want to shoot the vibrance up to 45, around there, and a little bit on the saturation. Not much, 12 could be good. We go down here to the details and the sharpening, drag it up to 58, radius 1.1. I'm gonna do the masking. I press the option button on the keyboard and drag the slider, and the dark areas will not be sharpened. Drag it up to 40, because you don't need to sharpen these areas here in the background, but I sharpen the flower. And I worked here in ISO 800 on this image, and I'm going to do this noise reduction a little bit. I can do 10. We can also set the lens corrections and the chromatic aberration this checkpoint here. So we can see here, we check this and go to profile. I want to pick up the vignette, so I get a little bit darker edges in the frame. Also want to do that a little bit extra with the highlight priority under effects and post crop vignetting. Drag this a little bit to the left, and then see the edges will be darker, and I will keep the viewer more inside the frame here, and the flowers pops more out of the frame, gets a better contrast. So I think that was it for this shot. Just one more thing. As you see here, I shoot my images in Adobe Standard, and if I shot my images, for example, in Adobe Camera Landscape, then the colors would have been more strong when I uploaded the images on and into Adobe Lightroom on the computer, because this has stronger saturation, you can see it there. So what I do, I shoot in Adobe Standard, and then I fine-tune the colors and contrasts here in Adobe Lightroom. So it's up to you. So you have to find out what you like. If you want to shoot in any of these other styles, if you could, some of them have more or less colors. Now we're going to show you another thing, and that is how to copy the developing settings from this image to the next one. So we're going to go and do that. Let me see now. I get to pick up that image here. There we go. And you see, this is not developed. I go up here. Now I want to copy the settings from the previous image. So just paste the settings here. You see? It copied the settings from the previous image. So if you have a series of images that are pretty similar, you don't have to develop each one of them. But this is taken with fill flash. So it's a little bit overlit here now with these settings. I want to reduce the exposure a little bit down. So get a little bit better here. I think this is it. Don't have to do any more. So this is taken with the fill flash, and here I use the ISO 200 at f16 and 0.3 second exposure with the fill flash, and the fill flash is only filling in into the natural light. The next one is taken on manual settings, manual light metering. Let's take a look at that. To drag this a little bit because of the recording program there. Take this back. Here is shot at manual metering and at ISO 200 at f16 and with 1/250th of a second exposure shutter speed. So if I took this picture without a flash, it would be completely dark, but the flash is filling in and providing the light that lit up the flower. So let's develop this one. I want to warm up the tones a little bit here, so I drag the color temperature to the right. There we go. Much better already. Warmer tones. I want to have some contrasts. And I want some clarity. Up to a little bit too much. 25. Drag up back towards 45 on the vibrance. And the vibrance is boosting up the colors that are not so present. And it's a very smart way to saturate your images. Way much smarter than the saturation. So I can drag up here a little bit on the saturation, but not too much. You see here, it can be too much. So I keep it a little bit lower. Around 13 can be good. We go here on the sharpening. Go up to 58. 1.1, and do the masking here. I don't need to sharpen these dark areas. Press the option button on the keyboard and drag the masking slider up to around 40. The dark areas here will not be sharpened. And here also want to enable the profile correction, but I want to keep the vignette in. There we go. I think this is it. And I'm gonna do a fourth development of this image. This is the motion blur image without any extra lighting. It's natural light. I just move the camera over 0.4 seconds. You can see here 0.4 seconds at f18 and at ISO 200. What is important with this kind of images is that you have some shutter speed, a little bit long shutter speed, so you can move the camera during the shutter speed, and then you get these creative, beautiful images. As I told you earlier, it's almost like the flower is on fire. And I also want to warm up the tones here. It's a little bit more too much blue here. So I drag that color temperature to the right. Look here, it's almost like the flames. And I want to increase the contrast. Also want to lift it up on the clarity, but not too much here because it's a creative choice. But if it gets too crispy, you also lose a little bit of this painting effect. This is more like a painting. It's my hand movements that creates this image. So I'm clarity can be at 15. Vibrance up to my favorite around 45. Lift up on the saturation. And we go to the sharpening. We don't need so much here. We can go to 50 because it's a soft image, and we can do the masking. Don't need to sharpen the dark areas here. Drag it up to 40. And I also want some vignette in here, so I want to have this there on there and a little bit more in here. Post-crop vignetting. It's down here under effects. Drag it to the left. You see it gets darker at the edges of the frame, and I keep then the viewer inside here. Another thing we can do here now is to light up the orange a little bit. Then I go up here and the luminance under the HSL the hue, saturation, luminance section. I want to lighten up the orange, so I'm on the luminance. I drag the orange to the right. See here? It gets lighter. It looks more like flames now. This is beautiful, nice. And if I want to saturate only orange, I can do that by dragging the slider up. So this is maybe too much, too little, but a little bit up on it. Good. And I want to take the green a little bit down and drag the green luminance to the left here. See here? Not too much, but you see here it was the original, and take it down a little bit. Then the orange is coming more out. So I think we are done with this. The rest of the images in this collection I have developed already. Let's take a look at each one of them. And let's take a look at the one by one. So go to this and go to full screen mode. Press the F button on the keyboard. Here's the one in natural light. Nice. With the fill flash in aperture priority mode. The fill flash is only filling in, and it creates more, makes the colors pop more out, get more details. Here's in manual light metering mode, and the flash is providing the main light here. So if I took this picture without flash, it would be completely dark. I like this too. And here is with the LED light. The LED light from the flashlight is filling in. Also nice nice colors and light here. And this is with a reflector. I picked up some light from the small reflector, the gold and silver reflector. If it was sunlight where I worked, I could pick up a sunbeam and send it into the shadows here, create a stronger effect. But this gave me also a little bit soft reflector light to fill in the shadows. Maybe it's a better contrast on this one. And here's the one, the painting. I handheld the camera, moved the camera during the exposure over, it was 0.4 seconds. Move the camera in small movements up and down during the exposure, and my hand movements is creating this paint-like image. And here's another in vertical format, also a good one, almost like a painting. And here is an image with a flash on rear curtain sync, and the flash goes off at the end of the exposure, and the exposure time here was 0.3 seconds, and I move the camera in small movements, quick movements up and down during this 0.3 seconds, up and down, and the flash goes off at the end of the exposure, and I get this combination of the motion blur made by the hand movements and the sharpness created by the flash going off at the end of the exposure. Here's one horizontal, and this is the vertical version of the same technique. Flash goes off at the end of the exposure, and in combination with the hand movements and the motion blur, it creates very beautiful, creative images. So let's go. I go back to normal mode here. I press the F button. Go down here to, let's double check now what we did in if it's something we can improve. the development. I think it's fine. And we can also look at this. That's good. Yes, I think I'm done here. I'm going to show you one last thing here. I will mark all the images pressing the Command and A button. Then all these images are marked. Then I go down here to the survey mode. Survey mode or survey view is an option to view all the images together if you have a larger collection. Click on that. Now I want to see only the images. Then I press the Shift and Tab button, and then I press 2 times on the L button on the keyboard. Then it gets dark around and we can see the images. Here, natural light, field flash. Both these images, the natural light and the field flash here, is taken in aperture priority mode at f16 aperture. And here is natural light, and here the flash is filling in. You see it's a little bit different here between these two. Next one is taken in manual metering mode, and the light from the flash is providing the necessary light to lit up the flower. If I took this picture without a flash, it would be completely dark. And here is the one with the LED light. This is with the reflector. And here's the RT images. It's almost like the flower is on fire, and hand movements up and down with this one, these two. Short movements up and down during an exposure of 0.4 seconds, I think it was. And these next two here is taken with a flash on rear curtain sync. The flash goes off at the end of the exposure, and combined with the movements, my hand movements and the short movements up and down with the camera during 0.3 seconds exposure, I get this combination of motion blur and sharpness created by the flash at the end of the exposure. To go back to normal mode now, I press the Shift and Tab button once again, and the L button one more time, and we are done. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you in another video.